What is going on, everyone? Welcome to another very exciting episode right here on the MI Gardener channel. In today's episode, we're going to be having another complete growing guide in our ongoing complete growing guide series, except this one is a very highly requested one. Pretty much since day one, when we started this series, you all have been asking us to do a complete growing guide on aloe. And so finally, when summertime arrived, I said, you know what? I think it's time to do one on aloe. So there's been a huge renewed interest in growing aloe. It's a wonderful plant, both medicinally as well as edibly, and it's also a wonderful house plant. And so a lot of you have been wanting to learn how to grow it because, like I said, there's been a huge resurgence in just getting back to natural remedies. And aloe is one of those amazing plants. This thing is a miracle plant. It is a succulent in the cactus family, and it actually it can be used so many different ways. So it actually is used most commonly as a topical skin, kind of a skin protectant. So if you get a sunburn or a scrape or scratch or something like that, it is a wonderful topical, and so it helps hydrate. You can also use it as lotion. I've seen people use it as hair gel, even as a shaving cream substitute. So there's a lot of different uses for this, and I really love this plant. I also really enjoy using it in drinks. One of my favorite ways to use this, maybe we'll do a recipe on it, a little quick recipe video on it later on, but I love to use this with coconut water. Break the leaf open, or you cut it off, and it immediately starts producing this slime. And that's because the plant actually holds on to moisture within the leaf. These leaves will hold on to incredible amounts of water in their cell structure. And they have this yellow ooze that seeps out. And that's actually, it's very bitter and it's not edible. I mean, you can eat it and you won't really be hurt from it, but it leads to very bad indigestion and diarrhea. So if you're going to ingest this, if you're going to use it in like a recipe like what I'm going to tell you about really shortly, you need to let that yellow ooze that yellow liquid ooze out by cutting it, setting it in a jar just upright and letting it drip out. And after a few hours, it's ready to be used. So you don't have to worry. It's not super dangerous, but you just want to make sure you get that out of the plant first before you use the rest of the aloe. And then you simply cut it down each side, slide a knife down, dividing it in half, and then you can scrape it out with a spoon, and it is just fantastic. As you can see, it is just so stringy and mucilaginous, and look at that, it's just nuts. So you can scrape it out and then use it in drinks, and I love it because it's so rich in water, micronutrients, trace minerals, vitamin C, vitamin E, and it is just so amazing. I love this stuff. And so you can also use it, if you're not using it in drinks, you can also use it topically. If you get a sunburn, if you get a scrape or a scratch, just kind of slide this all out. You do not need to get the yellow liquid out if you're using it topically. It's only if you're ingesting it. So you get that, just rub it on, rub it all over your skin, put it in your hair if you want. There's nothing wrong with this stuff. It's so, it's natural, so beneficial. It's great for your skin, hydrates, and it is awesome stuff. So I love aloe. So those are the uses for it, but it also makes a wonderful houseplant. It is a wonderful foliage houseplant for the reasons we'll get into. So let's get on into how to grow this amazing plant, because it is surprising how easy this plant is to grow. A lot of you have messaged me so worried about taking on the challenge of growing aloe, and I say, taking on the challenge? What challenge? It's easy. So let's get on into it. So the first thing is obviously the most notable, the pot size. The pot size does not have to be large. In fact, aloe, they're used to growing in very confined, very constricted spaces because their environment is very arid, it's very void of a lot of fertility, and so they can actually handle a small pot no problem. Also, as we'll get into, the root size of these plants are not very big, and that's because they're desert plants. And so if they had a big root system and they had a bunch of soil, they could actually suffer from root rot and crown rot, which is some stuff we'll get into. That is one of the biggest things that you'll run into, is if you overwater or you have too big of a pot, they'll actually suffer. So the smaller the pot, the better. Now this plant is pretty big, and I could probably up pot this to a slightly larger pot. And right now this is in a half-gallon pot, and as you can see, It's a big plant. So you definitely can get by with a smaller pot. Now, I'm probably gonna be moving this to a 1 gallon pot, but even in a 1 gallon pot, this could live for 2 or 3 more years in a 1 gallon pot without a problem at all. The next thing I want to talk about is soil. So soil kind of goes hand in hand with what we just talked about with pot size, and the soil is very important. Because aloe grow in a very arid, dry environment that does not have a whole lot of fertility, there's not a whole lot of humus to really hold on to that moisture, they like growing in soil that is very well draining. And the best soil that we can advocate is a cactus mix. Now you can go out and buy it at a big box store, you can buy it online, it's called Cactus Mix, but it is very expensive for what you get. And I'll tell you why. It is a good quality potting mix with a really natural, normal sand. You know, you just get a normal playground sand, $2 or $3 for a 50-pound bag, and you literally mix it 1 to 1, 50% sand to 50% potting mix. You should not be spending a ton of money on your cactus mix. Now you can if you want to, but I'm just telling you, it's very easy to make, and you can make a lot of it for super cheap. So just mix that up, and that way it's gonna be really well draining, but it's gonna hold on to some moisture, but not so much that you lead to root rot or crown rot. The next thing that I did wanna touch on too is when it comes to watering. So those all three, the pot, the soil, and the water, all really go hand in hand. So when it comes to watering, one of the biggest mistakes I see people making is overwatering their aloe plant. Just because the leaves are rich in water, and just because this plant is, it's a succulent, does not mean you need to water it a lot. It holds on to the water because it lives in arid environments. It does not get regular rains. So a lot of people, they flood their plants on like a weekly basis. And the only time we would ever water this once a week is if it was outside on our porch. If it's down in the beating sun, it's got the wind, it's got a lot of different environmental components that help evaporation, I might water this once a week, if that. And so if I water it once a week, it's gonna be just fine. Inside, I probably won't water this plant any more than maybe once every other week to once every 2.5 weeks, that far, or that long in between waterings. But that leads me to crown rot and root rot. The most common thing that you'll see, the biggest reason why you'll lose these plants, because they are hardy as heck. These are so hard to kill. They're so resilient. They'll take a beating in so many different conditions that they're almost impossible to kill. And they're a wonderful house plant, wonderful medicinal plant to start with, because they're just so easy for any skill level gardener. The crown rot and the root rot can be seen by the leaves at the crown turning limp and basically falling flat. If they do that, there's a problem with the root system or there's a problem with the crown. And it depends on how bad the issue is. The issue generally starts at the roots and then moves up to the crown. And you can resolve the issue by dialing back the water. If you start to see 1 or 2 leaves go limp and fall flat, and you can tell that you've overwatered, just stop watering. Let it dry out, let it heal, let it form new roots, and generally the problem will kind of fix itself, and the damage has been done, but it'll form new leaves without much harm. But if you keep watering, or if you fear that the plant needs more water because the leaves are going limp, that's where the mistakes happen. That's what we call compounding problems. It's already gotten too much water and you think the leaves are limp. That normally says I have to water, so you water more. That's when it leads to crown rot. And that's where the leaves up higher that are not near the soil level, that's where they start to basically get loose, they fall limp, and you can pretty much separate them right from the crown because the crown is rotting away. The next thing I want to talk about is nutrients. This plant, the aloe plant, is so easy to grow because of the fact, again, it grows in arid environments without a whole lot of nutrients because deserts don't have a whole lot of topsoil. These can grow perfectly fine in just moderately fertile soil. I recommend using an all-purpose fertilizer. We use Trifecta Plus. That's what we use on every single plant, so it doesn't change just because it's aloe. We just use less of it because it doesn't need that much nutrients. But if you're using your all-purpose fertilizer of choice, just don't use that much of it. The next thing I want to talk about is sunlight. These make amazing houseplants, you guys. Amazing houseplants, and that's because they don't need that much sun. Yes, they do grow in arid environments, desert, wide open skies, but they don't need that. Now we have it on our patio, 9 to 11 hours of sun. beautiful, and they love it. They'll thrive in that. They'll grow super fast in that. But if you have it as a house plant, these make amazing house plants because check out these leaves. Look at these leaves. These leaves are huge. These are modified leaves that hold moisture, but they also will photosynthesize. And the leaf surface is so huge on these leaves that they can actually photosynthesize and do just fine in 3 to 5 hours of sun. So if you have a moderately sunny window, south-facing window is the best, but if you have a moderately sunny window that gets 3 to 5 hours of sun, these are going to do awesome in that. So don't worry if you don't have a nice 7 to 9 hour sunlight window. They just won't grow as fast as something in full sun, but they will do really well. So wonderful houseplant for that. And then the final thing that I wanted to touch on is temperature. So a lot of people actually, and I have one other thing to talk about. So when it comes to temperature, these grow in high desert. So high deserts, they're exposed to very rapid temperature swings. It might be 110 during the day, and it might be 40 during the night. These are very resilient. And so while I don't prefer to subject these to 40-degree temperatures, if it happens to dip down to 40 at night, I don't lose any sleep over it. Now, if you do get freezing temperatures, that's where there can be some damage on leaves and stuff like that. So because there's a lot of water in here, so you don't want these leaves to freeze, that's when they'll turn limp and the plant will die. But for the most part, 40 degrees, I don't lose any sleep over it, but I prefer to keep these plants, if it's gonna dip down to 40 and I can mentally remember to bring it in the house, I'll pull it in the house because I like to keep it at no less than 50 degrees for a low. As far as a high goes, they're desert plants. I've left these out during heat waves in the middle of summer at 100, 105 degrees and didn't lose any sleep over it. So again, I don't like to, I'm not saying I'm a plant torturer, but this is probably the most resilient plant you can be growing. And so yeah, call Plant Protective Services, quick. Save me. No, there's no torturing of plants here, but I just know that this plant can handle it. It's a desert plant. And so, I'm having a great day. I hope you guys are as well. And yeah, and so like I said, they can handle some pretty warm temperatures. The last thing I wanted to touch on was pests. A lot of you asked, Luke, do you have any pests that affect your aloe? The answer is no. These are, again, desert plants. They're about as tough and as resilient as you can get. They have such thick, leathery leaves that the only thing that I've ever seen actually cause an issue is during really dry weather, you'll actually have birds come and they'll peck holes in the bottom to get some of the water out. Birds are extremely smart. In fact, in the desert, they'll actually poke holes in cacti to get the water out of the cactuses. And so they'll do the same with these. They'll peck holes in the bottom, but they don't really cause any damage, and the leaves will heal. They'll heal up just fine, and they don't, like I said, they don't really cause much issue. But no aphids, no whitefly, no spider mites, nothing. Just it's a heck of an easy plant to grow. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you learned something new. If you did, make sure to throw a like up there. And if you've wanted to try aloe for a long time and you were worried about taking this on as a plant to grow, hopefully I've explained to you just how easy this plant is and how amazing this plant is. This is truly a miracle plant, and I absolutely would advocate anyone grow this. Now, it does have some spines, so for children, it's not the most child-friendly plant, but obviously it is a wonderful plant to use around the house, and if kept out of the reach of little ones' hands, this is a very beneficial plant to have, and one that I recommend growing. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you learned something new. And as always, this is Luke from the Am I Gardener channel, reminding you to grow big or go home. Make sure to check out our whole series of complete growing guides. I think we have over 30 of them now. Just incredible. Also, if you want to read about them and you want to read about the growing guides, make sure to head over to amigardener.com. We actually have a blog that highlights the complete growing guides in text version. So if you're a reader, if you learn better through reading and text, we have a blog for that, and it's an amazing blog post. It's an amazing blog full of information, and I'm pretty sure very, very soon we'll have one up on aloe. So not up yet, but very soon. So check it out, and if you're watching any later than June 1st, 2020, we might even have the blog post up. So just go check it out and go look for it. And yeah, so all right. I hope you guys enjoyed. We'll catch you all later. Grow big or go home. See ya. Bye.